There's a robust pipeline for IPOs in 2020, but there are also big risk factors.
Based on pipeline, looks better than last year, but this will still be tempered by the geopolitical situation, the trade tension and how that gets resolved.
We are exposed to what the global economy outlook is. So there will definitely be some influence over the quantum or timing of the IPO, but I would say the demand is still there.
Last year, global IPO deals fell nearly 20% from 2018, while proceeds were down 4%. The technology sector dominated global listings with more than 260 deals. The industrial and healthcare segments also fared well.
Asia Pacific IPOs still continued to dominate global IPO activity, accounting for 7 of the top 10 exchanges around the world. But of course, in line with everything else, the numbers were still lower than that compared to 2018.
Here in Singapore, 11 companies raised over 3 billion Singapore dollars on the exchange in 2019. The fourfold increase in proceeds was mostly thanks to the listing of 4 REITs. This year, the IPO momentum has yet to pick up.
Typically, the first quarter of the year is a slow start. That's because people have to update their financials and be prepared. But of course, I think we have seen 2 IPOs that have been in the news. One, of course, is the Elite, which is, I believe, a REIT. And then we have a healthcare company.
More REITs and service-based plays are expected to list on the Singapore Exchange this year.
The last couple of years has always been the real estate sector. Having said so, I would believe that there are other sectors that start to gain a bit of quite a fair bit of traction as well. We have seen the F&B, the consumer services, or to some extent the industrial services as well.
While observers keep tabs on the potential listings of Thai beverages brewery arm and ride-hailing firm Grab, it's likely that traditional sectors will dominate IPO candidates for 2020.
Our market is seen as a very safe haven for investors, steady, profitable companies which pay steady dividends. So to that extent, a lot of our IPOs have been in the old economy, either real estate, industrial, banking, financial services.
Some say it may take a while for Singapore to become the venue of choice for emerging companies.
The internet companies, e-commerce, fintech, payment, or even the biosciences, life sciences, research-related technology, they are the ones who are showing the maximum growth. But they are not the typical IPO candidates, primarily because most of them are pre-profits. They are all about growth.
There are other exchanges which are very well established in this space, so it's going to be competitive. But as the startup scene here flourishes with fintech, with digital, there will be lots and lots more technology companies that are growing, who are successful, and who need to grow and tap the capital markets to build their brand.
Deloitte says high-growth companies typically need bite-sized funding during the expansion stage. And many weigh the cost and responsibility of becoming a public company versus that of raising money via private equity or private exchange.
That could potentially be cheaper in a sense and faster timing to get to the fund. But as they grow, move on with the subsequent stages and hit a place where they will need a bigger platform to play with and to reach a bigger outreach, that's where a public exchange will be suitable for them.
It's now very hard to figure out which stage is better and which industry is better for VC and PE and M&A or even IPO. Earlier, IPO was a preferred exit option. Now people are going for trade sale and secondary sale.
EY says private funding helps firms establish themselves before going for an IPO. On its part, SGX is also making positive changes in listing rules.
They also finally did away with quarterly reporting, which will lower compliance costs. But of course, that's only one part of attractiveness. You need to pull all the pieces together to be able to be competitive in what is essentially an international space.
In the global arena, despite ongoing street protests, Hong Kong topped IPO rankings in 2019, with big-ticket listings like Alibaba and Budweiser.
Hong Kong is in a very cool position because it continues to be attractive to international, to Chinese companies wanting to list there. And of course, that's also about a proximity to this large market called the China hinterland. The US SEC is also looking very, very closely at Chinese companies looking in the US. There could be some pushback. There will be definitely some tendency for some of these companies to want to come back closer to home.
Deloitte's China unit expects the mainland to see record IPOs this year, with both the SME and tech-centred boards likely to have over 100 new listings. Meanwhile, steady economic growth could lead to more IPOs coming to Southeast Asian bourses.
Take Thailand, for example. They have been demonstrating stable economic growth, very stable or strong currency, and with a positive investment environment within their domestic market. There is a strong pipeline for them.
Indonesia and the Philippines are also enhancing their pro-business market environment through corporate tax cuts and lower transaction fees in capital markets. But experts say the right time to launch new IPOs will be tricky for companies.
The windows of opportunity for IPOs will continue to be narrow because of uncertainty. So companies that have these plans should really get themselves prepared so that when that window opens, they can execute it seamlessly.
In the long term, some are optimistic that the IPO mix for many regional exchanges like Singapore will eventually see a new breed of companies.
We are at the cusp of an evolution wherein the VC investors and PE investors have started considering more focus on profits in the unicorn and other early stage companies. If that change actually comes through over the next few months or couple of years, clearly I think IPO will start becoming a more popular exit destination for these early stage companies and the tech companies as well.